All right. Shalom, family. It's your brother Kanaiba coming at you once again with this video titled, China is preparing for a great famine. The elites are privy of certain prophecies. Okay. So earlier today, I was on Instagram and I ran into this article from, or this post from End Time Headline. And as you see right here, it reads, China is feverishly preparing for the coming global famine, but the U.S. is taking a completely different approach. Okay. So as I said in the title of my video, okay, and this isn't dealing with the common folks, but the elites of all these different countries, the elites of the world today, they are privy of a lot of prophecies in the Bible. And they know one of these prophecies is dealing with famine. Okay, there's going to be a global famine that's prophesied about in the Bible. But the thing about it is certain areas are going to get hit with this famine harder than others. Okay, and China just so happens to be one of those places. But don't be mistaken. Okay, America is going to get hit with this famine a lot harder than China. In fact, America is going to get hit with this famine harder than any place else. Okay? So, without further ado, let's actually get into the scriptures and let's take a look at these prophecies about the famine. Okay? Let's get to it. All right, so this is actually the article from endtimeheadline.org. Okay? About the famine in China, okay? And it reads, we live at a time when global food supplies are getting tighter and tighter, and global food prices just keep going higher and higher. Bizarre weather patterns and widespread natural disasters have been playing havoc with food production all over the planet. And the sea pandemic has thrown worldwide supply chains into a state of complete and utter chaos. Okay, so that's what's going on today, and we see it clearly. Okay, you know, prices of food is continuing to go up. You know, it seems like every day, and you know, part and partial to the fact that the shelves are empty. Okay. So, you know, the less and less that you have of certain items, of course, the higher the price is going to be because it's not plentiful. Okay, that's common sense, right? So anyway, let's continue. So scrolling up a bit, and it continues. As a result, the world is currently battling the worst hunger crisis this century. And it is expected to get even worse in 2022. Have I not been saying this? That 2022 is going to be a doozy. Okay? Everything that's happened at the end of this year, or the so-called end of this year, because it's really not the end of a year. But, you know, for the purpose of edification, I'm going to say it's the end of the year. But everything that's happened towards the end of 2021, okay, is pretty much just giving you, you know, a preview of what's to come in 2022, how bad it's going to be, okay? And, you know, part of what's going to happen in 2022, as it says here, is dealing with this hunger crisis, okay? It's going to get even worse next year, okay? But anyway, continuing on, and it reads, of course, this is just the beginning. You better believe it. For a very long time, I have been warning that global trends indicate that we are heading toward a horrifying global famine. And that is just one of the reasons why I have been relentlessly encouraging my readers to get prepared while they still can. Okay? And you better believe that this famine has already been prophesied about in the Bible. As we're going to read some of it. Okay? But anyway, let's continue. So scrolling up a bit more, and it reads, apparently, the Chinese government can also see what is coming, because right now they are hoarding food on an unprecedented scale. Less than 20% of the world's population has managed to stockpile more than half of the globe's maize and other grains, leading to steep price increases across the planet and dropping more countries into famine. Okay, so because of the actions of China is forcing other countries deeper into famine because of their hoarding of food, because China sees what's coming. Okay, and it's a trickle down effect. It's affecting other countries, probably countries that are, more towards third world countries, I would suspect. Okay, they didn't really give a list of those countries, but the fact that the actions of China, them hoarding food, is affecting other places and causing them to get deeper into famine. Okay, that speaks a lot. Okay, but anyway, let's continue. So let's scroll up a bit more, and it continues. The hoarding is taking place in China. If everything is going to be just fine, why would China be doing this? Okay, I'll tell you why they're doing it, because everything is not going to be just fine. Okay, China already sees the writing on the wall. Okay, and like I said before, quiet as it kept, the elites of this world, they know what's coming because they are privy to certain biblical prophecies. Okay, they know a global famine is coming. Okay, but anyway, let's continue. It simply would not make sense. But if famine is on the way, the Chinese are being extremely prudent. And the amount of food that they are now stockpiling is definitely eye-popping. Okay, let's continue. So scrolling up a bit more, and it reads, according to data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, China is expected to have 69% of the globe's maize reserves in the first half of crop year 2022, 60% of its rice, and 51% of its wheat. If things hit the fan in 2022, which it is, or beyond, Chinese officials have ensured that their people are going to be able to eat. So in other words, forget y'all, we gonna eat. Okay, we not worried about anybody else. China, we gonna eat. That's basically what they saying. Okay, but anyway, let's continue. So scrolling up a bit more, and it reads, in fact, they are estimating that their wheat reserves could meet demand for 1.5 years. Okay, so they pretty much stockpiled enough wheat for 1.5 years. Okay, they got 1.5 years worth, right? But anyway, continuing on, and it reads, China is maintaining its food stockpiles at a historically high level. Qin Yuyan, head of grain reserves at the National Food and Strategic Reserves Administration, told reporters in November, our wheat stockpiles can meet the demand for 1.5 years. There is no problem whatsoever about the food supply. Okay, so like it says right here in this particular paragraph, okay, that they stockpiled enough wheat, and this is just wheat. This is not talking about any other food. This is just wheat, and they stockpiled enough for 1.5 years at least. Okay, so now let's continue on. So let's scroll up a bit more, and it continues. So what is the U.S. doing? Surely we must be stockpiling lots of foods too, right? Yeah, right. Sadly, we aren't. There were times in the past when the U.S. government stockpiled large amounts of food, but those programs have mostly been eliminated, and that's strategic. Okay? Like I said before, these elites, they know the prophecies, and they're going to use this to their advantage. They're going to use this famine, okay, to force people to get the MOTB. Okay, they're going to use this, okay? Everything is lining up perfectly. Okay, everything is lining up so perfectly, because when that famine hits, okay, they're going to use that to force you to get jabbed up. Okay, if you don't, you definitely won't be able to eat. Okay, there's already going to be a shortage of food. Okay, and what food that there is, okay, if you want to eat, you gotta get poked. You gotta get the hokey pokey. Okay, but anyway, continuing on, the government has in the past stockpiled food, but these programs were mainly to support farmers hurt by low prices, and even right now, farmers are hurting. Okay, so I mean, those programs would have been needed, or they are needed right now. So why did they eliminate it? Okay, because as we know, in the past, it was just a few months ago, there were articles about how farmers are hurting because of the pandemic. Okay, but again, this is nothing but pure foolishness. Okay, but anyway, let's continue. So now let's scroll up a bit more here, and it reads, for example, in the late 1970s and early 1980s, the Department of Agriculture, USDA, bought surplus dairy products, which it distributed to Americans via various welfare programs. At this point, the U.S. government does not anticipate that there will be a need to supply food to the entire country. I call BS. Okay, they know that a famine is coming. Okay, at least the elites. Okay, they know a famine is coming because they are privy to certain prophecies. Okay, they want to handicap this society to an extent. Okay, for to gain control and to force people to actually get the MOTB. Okay, it should be clear by now. Okay, but anyway, let's continue. So let's scroll up a bit more here, and it reads, the U.S. does have some commodities that it has purchased for aid programs, and there is a very limited amount of food, water, and generators at 8 widely scattered FEMA distribution centers. Now, why is that? There's a limited amount of food and water, along with generators, at these 8 FEMA distribution centers, right? Okay, because you got to understand, when certain people get thrown into these FEMA camps, okay, they're going to use that, small supply of food and water to try and bribe people into getting the MOTB. Okay, we already know it's going to be a famine. Okay, so to take advantage of that, they're going to tell people, come on, I know you hungry. Just get the hokey pokey, and we'll give you something to eat. Okay, that's one of the tactics that's going to be used. Okay, so be mindful of that. All right. But anyway, let's continue, and it reads, today, the USDA still buys various commodities for both domestic and international food aid programs. Okay, so now let's continue. So let's scroll up a bit more, and it reads, It also maintains a vault in Fort Collins, Colorado, that houses thousands of plant species and genetic material of livestock in the event of a disaster. The SNS does not contain food reserves, but the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, stockpiles food, water, generators, and other resources in 8 distribution centers located in the United States and its territories. Okay, so now that we have that information on China and how they actually are expecting a coming famine, let's actually get into the scriptures and deal with the prophecies about, China or Asia and the famine. Okay, let's get to it. So this is 2nd Esdras, chapter 15, starting at verse 46. And it reads, "And thou, Asia, that art partaker of the hope of Babylon, and art the glory of her person." Okay, so what do we see here in the beginning of verse 46? It says, "And thou, Asia." Okay, the last time I checked, China is in Asia. Okay, that's what this is dealing with. Now, not only do you have China in Asia, you also have places like you have Japan, you have, of course, China, and you have Taiwan. And those 3 places, okay, America has a lot of dealings with, concerning merchandise, buying and selling, okay? A lot of the stuff you buy, you look at the back of it, it'll say made in China, made in Japan, made in Taiwan, things of that nature, okay? Then you also have places like North and South Korea and Indonesia. Indonesia being another one that, has dealings with America concerning, buying and selling and things of that nature, okay? But right now the focus is China and that famine, okay? So that's the focus. But it says, "And thou, Asia," okay? Then the next part says, "that art partaker of the hope of Babylon." Okay, so of course, Babylon in this verse, this is dealing with America. This is Babylon the Great. Okay, so China is a partaker of Babylon. Okay, they are a lot like America. Okay, they've taken on a lot of the ways of America. Okay, and that's why China has to get judged. All right, as we're going to see in the coming verses that we read. Okay, but anyway, let's continue on. This is verse 47, and it reads, "Woe be unto thee." Again, that's dealing with Asia, okay, China. "Thou wretch, because thou hast made thyself like unto her, and hast decked thy daughters in whoredom, that they might please and glory in thy lovers, which have always desired to commit whoredom with thee." Okay, so again, this is letting us know that, pretty much China is in bed with America, okay, in a lot of different ways, but, chiefly dealing with merchandise, okay, buying and selling. A lot of the things that America gets comes from China, and we know that, right? But when you look at the beginning of the verse, it says, "Because thou hast made thyself like unto her." Okay, the her right there again is Babylon the great whore, right? That's America. So again, this is pretty much reiterating verse 46. China has taken on a lot of the ways of America, okay? And this is why it's being likened unto whoredom, okay? Because they've adopted a lot of the ways of America, okay? That's viewed as whoredom, okay? When you look in the scriptures, it talks about, in the book of Revelation, chapter 17, it talks about the great whore, that's riding the scarlet colored beast that sitteth upon many waters. Okay. Now that whore that's upon many waters, the waters represent what? All the nations of people. Okay. This is why America is called the Great Whore. Okay. Because America has had dealings pretty much with all nations. It is committed whoredom with all nations. Okay. And China just being one of those places. Okay. So moving forward, this is verse 48, and it reads, Thou hast followed her that is hated in all her works and inventions. Therefore, saith God. Now, let's pause for a minute. The beginning of verse 48 says what? Thou hast followed her that is hated in all her works and inventions. Wait a minute. Now, the her in this verse, of course, is America. Okay. Thou, being Asia, thou hast followed her, America, that is hated in all her works and inventions. Now, America, of course, ultimately is hated of the Most High Yahweh. Okay. And his son, Yahushai. Okay. That's who they're hated of. That's why when you go to the beginning of Revelations, the 18th chapter, it talks about how her sins have reached unto heaven. Okay, so they have to get judged. Okay, they are hated in all their works and inventions. Okay, and because China has followed after America, they got to be judged. Okay, so continuing on, this is verse 49, and it reads, I will send plagues upon thee, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence, to waste thy houses with destruction and death. Okay, so the middle of verse 49, we see that one of the plagues that's going to come upon Asia is what? Famine. Okay, this is going right into the article that we just read. I told you that the elites of these different countries, or the elites of this world, they are privy to certain prophecies in the Bible. Okay, they know that there's a global famine that's coming, and that China is going to be one of those countries that's going to get hit the hardest with this famine. Okay, but there's a global famine that's coming. Okay, because they already said in the article that other countries are feeling the effects because China is hoarding a lot of the food. Okay, it's a trickle-down effect. Okay, so now jumping down a bit, this is verse 57, and it reads, Thy children shall die of hunger, and thou shalt fall through the sword. Thy city shall be broken down, and all thine shall perish with the sword in the field. Okay, so as we see here in the beginning of the verse, it says, Thy children shall die of hunger. Now, why are their children going to die of hunger? Well, we already know that there's going to be a famine. Okay, so the children are going to die of hunger because of this famine, which is one of the plagues that's coming upon Asia. Okay, but anyway, continuing on with the next verse, verse 58, and it reads, They that be in the mountains shall die of hunger, and eat their own flesh, and drink their own blood, for very hunger of bread and thirst of water. Okay, so this is, again, not only will Asia get hit with this, but this is going to be a global famine. Okay, it's just certain areas are going to get hit harder than others. Okay, and don't think for 1 second that America is not going to get hit with this famine. Okay, because it's going to happen. All right, Actually, let's get to it. Let's prove that America is also going to get hit with this famine. Okay? So this is the book of Revelation, chapter 18, starting at verse 7. And it reads, "How much she hath glorified herself." Again, this is talking about the great whore, Babylon the Great, America. Again, it reads, "How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow." So looking at the beginning of the verse, it says, "How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously." Okay, so this is going into the pride and haughtiness of America. This is the most prideful country on the face of this planet. And as we know, pride goeth forth before destruction. Okay, it's coming. All right. So when you go to the end of the verse, it says, "I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow." So not to digress too much, but remember in one of my past videos, I said that they're trying to get the women of this society to be microcosms of the whore of Babylon. Okay? Now, as you see here, the attitude of this society of America is, "I sit a queen." Okay? What is the mentality of most of the women in this society? What do they view themselves as? What do they call themselves? A queen. Okay? And that's the mentality of America at large. Okay? I sit a queen. Okay? But in actuality, this place is not a place of, integrity or anything like that. Remember, this place is really called the Great Whore. It's the opposite of royalty. It's the Great Whore. It's not really what you would call a queen per se. This is just the mentality that they have. But more and more, as time goes on, they're being exposed. Okay, that skirt is being lifted up for the whore that America really is. Okay, and this is what they're trying to get the women of this society to be. They have the mentality of, "Oh, I'm a queen," but unfortunately, a lot of women in this society, they've gone off into whoredom. Okay, that's what this society is promoting. Okay, but not to digress too much or get too far off topic, but I just found that very interesting that the end of the verse said that. Okay, but anyway, continuing forward, this is verse 8, and it reads, "Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord God who judgeth her." Okay, so as we see here, that one of the plagues that America is going to face is what? Famine. Okay, remember I said, don't think for 1 minute that America isn't going to suffer famine like everybody else, because America is going to suffer famine. And guess what? It's going to be worse than any other place on this planet. Okay, because remember, the beginning of this chapter says what? Her sins have reached unto heaven. Okay, and that's how great a judgment that this place has to get for the sins that is committed, for the things that this place has done to the children of Israel. They have to pay. They have to pay greatly. And guess what? They will. This famine is coming. And guess what? China knows it. Okay, they already see the writing on the wall. Okay? But anyway, I believe this is actually a good place to end the video. And again, the title of this video is China is Preparing for a Great Famine. The elites are privy of certain prophecies. Okay? This was actually a good article. It ties right into prophecy. Okay? So, like I said before, 2022, me personally, I believe it's going to be a doozy. Okay? Like I've been saying, again, the writing is on the wall. Okay? So, with that being said, of course, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Ruach HaKodesh. I want to thank all you brothers and sisters for tuning in. And until next time, Shalom, family.